Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com. That's thetavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. It's Monday, so Dr. Cornel West will come out the blocks first in our second hour. On the B side of hour two, as part of their Black Joy as Resistance season, Spelman College is premiering a new musical production of The Color Purple, written by Spelman alum Alice Walker. You knew that, right? Alice Walker went to Spelman. We will talk to the play's director, Spelman Professor Jade Lambert-Smith, on the backside of hour two. In our third hour, two more conversations. Up first, Stanford University Professor Dr. Lembke, who testified in the big court case against Meta and YouTube. As a psychiatrist, she'll also offer some reflections on the 65th anniversary of the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, which many believe laid the foundation for the mass incarceration in America that we are experiencing today. On the B side of hour three, legendary computer scientist and futurist Jaron Lanier, also known as the father of virtual reality, shares his thoughts on the road ahead for social media following that big Meta YouTube verdict. But let's commence today's show talking politics and more with our regular contributor, author, professor, and the founding chair of the Department of African American Studies at UCLA, Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter. Marcus, how are you, sir?
I'm blessed in the city. How you doing, T-Dot?
You know me, man. If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I am doing well. I was so anxious for the last few days to get to you at the onset of today's show because of the news that broke last Thursday. We got a bit into this in the last hour of last Thursday's show, but I want to start with this in case you may have missed this late in the Thursday show, missed it over the weekend. It was big news, historic news, and so I want to start with a clip of the president of Ghana, John Mahama, on the erasure of black history. Last Thursday last week, I should say, in the United Nations General Assembly, they passed a vote on this issue of reparations. I'll give you more detail about it in just a second. I start with the voice of John Mahama, president of Ghana.
Here in the United States, black history courses are being removed from school curricula. Schools are being mandated to stop teaching students about the truth of slavery, segregation, and racism in American history courses. Books about those topics are being banned in schools and public libraries. Museums, art centers, and other institutions whose budgets rely in any way on public funds are being prohibited from scheduling exhibitions and programs or from displaying materials promoting racial awareness or black history. They're slowly normalizing erasure.
That was President John Mahama of Ghana, and if you listen to that clip well, as I'm sure you did, you hear the president of an African nation telling the U.S. What we're doing wrong. He is right about that, but there's something about the folk in this country who don't like being lectured to by an African president about what we are doing to erase black history. But that ain't all John Mahama had to say. Take a listen.
Truth begins with language, with the power that words hold to shape consciousness and to shift perspectives to propel an action or other. I therefore offer this truth as a starting point. There's no such thing as a slave. There were human beings who were trafficked and then enslaved by people who believed they could own those human beings as chattels, as their personal property. Some will hear this and think I'm splitting hairs. Isn't that the same thing, they might ask? No, it's not. Not at all the same thing. not if you acknowledge an individual's humanity, not if you respect an individual's basic right to dignity. The entire transatlantic slave trade was designed to deny African people their humanity. And that denial was premised on a racial hierarchy with no basis in fact or science, a racial hierarchy that deemed whiteness superior and blackness inferior. The atrocities that were committed against enslaved Africans, the myriads of injustice that were born of slavery and carried forward into successive social framework, took place specifically because those persons were considered objects, not human beings. So when discussing slavery and its resulting institutions and practices, we must always start by reclaiming racial equality, the dignity of Africans, the humanity of our ancestors who were enslaved, and as a matter of course, our own humanity.
So, again, that's the voice of John Mahama, the president of Ghana, who led this fight. They've been at this for some years now, but he led this campaign to get the UN General Assembly to finally say the following about those persons who were trafficked and enslaved. And the language that the UN General Assembly passed last week was that this trafficking of persons who were then enslaved is the gravest crime against humanity. That's their language, the gravest crime against humanity. And then they went on to call for reparations as a way to redress this greatest crime against humanity. The vote passed overwhelmingly in the UN General Assembly. There are 3 nations who voted against it: Argentina, Israel, and guess who? The United States. We'll talk about that. Marcus is the author of a powerful book called Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. So let's spend a few minutes on this before we get to other issues in this hour. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Tavis Smiley.
They say time flies when you're having fun. The founding members cohort is now officially over. Hard to believe. It's been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now, the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, do not hesitate. Go to TavisTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavisTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning. The cap is loose on that ketchup.
Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
We're at Doolin's on Crenshaw. It's a special place where the neighborhood comes together. Got the fried chicken, the catfish, the candied yams, the mac and cheese. It's all delicious. I'm Isaac Bryan. I represent the Crenshaw District in the California State Legislature, and I'm supporting Tom Steyer for governor of California. California is under attack, and we need a fighter who's going to come in on day one and stand up for California values and push back. That person is Tom Steyer. Tom and I have been fighting together for the better part of a decade. Tom is the only candidate supported by smart justice because Tom has stood on the front lines of racial justice, economic justice, and true solidarity. Tom is the real deal. He's the only candidate in the race with a comprehensive plan to make the billionaires and the corporations pay their fair share so we can fund things like universal health care and education. He means what he says, and he does what we need. This is a moment when we've got to fight fire with fire, and I believe that that fire is Tom Steyer.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter of UCLA. And again, I wanted to start with this because it was breaking news last week. We got to it a bit at the conclusion of our Thursday show, but I wanted to start with Marcus and for a variety of reasons. One, because some of you may have missed it, but again, as I also said, he's the author of a book called Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. So a bit more quick backstory in case you, again, didn't see this story, and then we'll push forward. So the vote on this resolution to remedy the historical wrongs of trafficked, enslaved Africans has the language in the document, in the resolution, that I shared with you earlier. This has now been called, this trafficking, this enslavement, the greatest crime against humanity. The resolution goes on to call for reparations as their language, concrete step towards remedying historical wrongs. That's their language, a concrete step toward remedying historical wrongs. Now, the vote passed. This is 193 members, as you know, of the UN, 193-member world body. Of the 193 people in that world body, the vote passed 123-3 with 52 abstentions. Just some quick backstory here. 123-3. As I mentioned, the three countries voting against it, Argentina, Israel, and the good old United States of America. 52 abstentions. The United Kingdom and all 27 members of the EU were among those who abstained. This resolution is not legally binding, and yet there are questions today about what it means that this resolution finally got passed in the UN General Assembly. What does the UN vote mean with regard to slavery? Marcus Anthony Hunter, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I want to start by just echoing what the president of Ghana said, what you shared in the segment before, but placing it in the ancient proverb from the great nation of Benin. People say slaves were taken from Africa. This is not true. People were taken from Africa and made into slaves. And so part of what we hear the president of Ghana intentionally in New York City, the UN's headquarters there versus in Geneva, is to establish that particular precedent there, because it's also a nation that nearly created and then lost itself because of its passion and love and commitment to slavery, and also is in this moment of rollback and banning books and banning knowledge and information about its own history. And so one way you do that is by, they have a phrase in Ghana that says, one lie destroys 1,000 truths. So you have the representative of that great nation coming and saying this lie that slaves were taken from Africa and that there was no slavery, or is just a part of a background story that doesn't matter, is dangerous, and also illustrates in New York City that there is a global majority that is in favor of having this reparations moment across the world, and in light of what has happened in America. So it's an entanglement of American slavery with the global demand for repair, because again, one friendly edit I have for the president of Ghana is that he says, quote, the transatlantic slave trade, the great sociologist, historian, griot, and teacher Molefi Asante always reminds that the Atlantic Ocean didn't do anything. The Sahara Desert isn't doing anything. It is the European slave trade and the Arab slave trade. We must always remember that it is people transporting people, and that the ocean is just minding its business.
I hear you loud and clear, quoting Molefi Asante. There are those who have had commentary about this vote in the days since it happened. One of the themes that you've heard, I'm sure, as I've heard repeatedly, is that nations who abstained and nations who voted against did so for a couple of reasons, not the least of which is they don't want to be on the hook for what they did somewhere down the road. You start with you start with the enslavement and the trafficking of Africans. Who knows where you go from there? So one is people don't want to be culpable. They don't want to be complicit. They don't want to have to deal with that part of the story. But the other part is that word gravest is a serious word. The gravest crime against humanity, as if somehow we are comparing crimes, as if crimes against humanity are in some sort of competition. And to that, you say what about the use of the word gravest?
I think it's important that, as long as I've been alive, and perhaps others, I am unsure the last time that the African and Black experience was centered in such a way. And as the coiner of the hashtag Black Lives Matter, I've found that even when you say that, there's a knee-jerk reaction where people say all lives matter, blue lives matter. It's like, yeah, whenever you center Black people and Black people's experience and what has been done to Black people as equally important, or perhaps more important than other things that we talk about, there's always this response to reject that and to get into an oppression Olympics. And I think it's also important to understand in the context that is being said, the UN is supposed to be the body that oversees the disappearance and elimination of human trafficking. And what the president is doing that I think is important in this moment is to help people understand, and I say this in my book, Radical Reparations, that human trafficking is just a new age word for slavery. So what he's also trying to do is collapse those words into the same thing, which is another form of education.
I love that phrase, oppression Olympics. That's what I was trying to get at. And as always, Marcus said it much more eloquently than I did. But yeah, this ain't no oppression Olympics. I take his point loud and clear, though, that whenever you center the humanity, the dignity of Black people at the epicenter of the conversation, people lose their minds. I take your point loud.
Absolutely.
I take your point loud and clear. What's occurred to me in the last few days since this news broke, this is, by the way, a historic vote. There's no question about that. That this got through in the UN General Assembly with 123 member nations voting for it, and the spotlight being placed on Israel, Argentina, and the US of A for voting against it, and that hotter spotlight being placed on the EU for abstaining from it, even though they were at the epicenter of it. Don't get me started on that. What's occurred to me over the last few days is that we see globally the narrative shifting as the world moves on. And for all that's wrong with the world right about now, for all that we could and do complain about, for all the drama and all the trauma that people are dealing with in real time, I think it's worth just pausing for a second and noting that on a couple of issues, the global conversation is shifting. The conversation on Israel and Palestine is shifting globally. The conversation on reparations, as evidenced by this vote, is now shifting globally. Something is happening in the world, and I don't want to make too much of it, but I don't want to ignore it either, Marcus Anthony Hunter. Something is happening where we ain't got to the No Kings rallies this weekend. We'll talk about that in a moment. But it seems that something is happening where people's consciences, if not, how might I put this, their consciences are at least being pricked. And the conversation is advancing on some pretty weighty issues that we have been bogged down by for decades, if not longer. But I see, I sense something happening where these conversations are becoming more fertile, and you're seeing this kind of advancement. I'm going to stand down for a second. Does any of that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, reparations is how we move from a world organized around harm to one intentionally designed for healing. And part of what we're also in is in this full chromatic harm inflection where there's harm everywhere. And part of what's happening in that is that how do you design a world that is not only harm reduced, but also full of healing? That is where the reparative justice model comes from. And in fact, when I was writing Radical Reparations, the final parable closes with a South African person arriving in 2028 to speak before the UN in New York City to proclaim exactly this issue. So I would dare say we're also 2 years ahead in that very scene, which to me, as you know, I am optimistic about the idea of reparations always, especially when you start to see certain kinds of inflections globally that then CBC comes out and endorses not only the resolution, but also triples down on the importance of HR 40. So we're also seeing that the Ghanaian president arrives within a context, an ecosystem of reparative justice. So if not for Tulsa or Evanston or California or Boston or Philadelphia, without CARICOM, without all of these different people making this demand to the accountable parties and governments, you then get this context where the president that is now representing the door of no return is coming out and saying, this did happen. Now, the other thing that's important about that is that ultimately, if we get through a full, robust reparations story, we get to the idea that many people were also bought and sold by people in West Africa to enslavers. So when we're thinking about reparations, and I think this is what the Ghanaian president is trying to get at, is that we're talking about a whole new world, because there are no clean hands ultimately in that story of trafficking people and people turning a blind eye and participating in it for centuries.
So here's my exit question on this particular subject matter. But again, I want to start here today for those who may have missed this historic vote last week and what it actually means, and who better than discuss this with than Marcus Anthony Hunter, who again has written about the subject matter. So I come back to where I began this dialogue, and that is, to your mind, what really does this mean for the days, months, and years to come? Does it mean much of anything, given that it is not legally binding, this resolution?
Yeah, I think that it means, in terms of symbolism, it means for all of us, those people and everyday citizens, for example, who have voted on measures to make a reparations commission happen, or vote on elected officials who then are endorseful of this, that the work is not only not in vain, but it is in the global zeitgeist, that we have our finger on where we need to go. And so much of what has happened in time is that people sort of pivot away from this topic, or marginalize it, or gaslight it, or don't use it, or try to conquer and divide within the topic, when all of this time we are a part of the global majority in terms of where we think the world needs to turn its attention to next. I receive this as deep affirmation and confirmation, and most importantly, invitation to the rest of the world to educate itself about this topic, and to understand that there's a part for everyone to play in seeing a reparative justice comprehensive model exist across the world.
So there you have it. That's the UN General Assembly vote last week on reparations. Again, it passed overwhelmingly in that body, and so we will continue, of course, to follow the story and see in the coming months and years what comes out of it. But for a body that has 193 members, for this vote to pass 123-3 was a big deal. Never mind those 52 abstentions. Never mind Israel, Argentina, and the U.S. voting against it. Now, I mentioned earlier these No Kings rallies. They were rallies all across the country. We'll talk more about it when we come forward, but more than 8 million people turned out at over 3,300 protests all across the country in all 50 states. More about that when we come forward. But first, here's some sound, starting with the boss, Bruce Springsteen in Minneapolis. Some sound from these No Kings protests over the weekend.
Your strength and your commitment told us that this is still America. And this reactionary nightmare and these invasions of American cities will not stand.
I'm here because I'm worried about my children and my grandchildren. I'm tired. We're exhausted. This brings me hope. I have so much hope here. And we can change this. Our government is not going to do it. It has to be we the people.
What we provide is mockery to the king. And we call this part of the Mock and Awe Tour. And that's really about just taking authoritarianism and making fun of it, which they hate. And that's what we're doing.
And no one, not the bully in chief, not the racist in chief, not the wannabe king, no one is above the law. They want us to be afraid that there's nothing we can do to stop them. But you know what? They are wrong, dead wrong, because we know better. Millions of us are not afraid to know our rights and exercise them, to stand up for each other and our hard-fought freedoms.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The TSA is warning that staffing shortages from the partial government shutdown could force small airports to close.
Some are sleeping in their cars, selling their blood and plasma, and taking on second jobs to make ends meet.
That's Deputy Administrator Ha-Wen McNeil, who told Congress that 460 officers have quit since DHS ran out of funding. A House panel has found Black Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Sherfilis McCormick guilty of 25 ethics charges, including allegations she stole federal relief funds and funneled money into her campaign. The full committee will now consider penalties. And WNBA star Angel Reese is the new digital cover of Vogue Australia's April issue. The Chicago Sky forward makes history wearing her own Reebok AR1 sneakers on the cover. The feature spotlights her career and her unapologetically Angel shoe line. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Now is the time to save on an award-winning Nissan at the Nissan Now sales event, featuring the Rogue, Pathfinder, Frontier, and more. Don't wait. These offers are going fast. Shop your Southern California Nissan dealers and NissanUSA.com today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Congratulations to the UCLA women's basketball team. They advanced to the Final Four in the NCAA tournament for the second year in a row. UCLA overcame a sluggish first half to beat Duke 70-58 in the Sacramento Regional Final. 29 straight wins for the Bruins. They are 35-1. Lauren Betts scored 15 of her 23 points in the second half. The Bruins will play Texas or Michigan Friday night in Phoenix. The NCAA men's basketball Final Four is set. Illinois, Michigan, Arizona, and UConn. Lakers star Luka Doncic will serve a one-game suspension for tonight's home game against Washington. Doncic was hit with his 16th technical foul Friday night in the Lakers win over Brooklyn. The one-game suspension will cost Doncic $561,000. The Clippers beat Milwaukee Sunday 127-113. Benedict Mathurin had a game-high 28 off the bench. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return, but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by Apple.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya, guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-7736.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with UCLA Professor Marcus Anthony Hunter, the founding chair of the Department of African American Studies. Honored to have him kick us off on today's program. So we were talking earlier about these No Kings protests around the country. Let me give you some quick backstory, and then I'll let Marcus respond as he will. So I mentioned in the clip that we played a moment ago that the boss, Bruce Springsteen, spoke in Minneapolis, as did Governor Tim Walz, Senator Bernie Sanders, Jane Fonda, Joan Baez. They were all there in Minneapolis for the rally there. But more than 8 million people turned out, over 3,300 No Kings protests in the country, all 50 states. You'll recall the first 2 rounds of these No Kings protests in June and October of last year. June had about 5 million people. October had about 7 million. Now we're over 8 million. So the numbers, the protests, the angst, the anger, the pushback, the fight back is growing. And people, again, marched literally all across the country. In Dallas, there were clashes that erupted between marchers and counter-protesters that included some pardoned January 6 persons. Here in L.A., where I sit, 9 folk were arrested after demonstrators, we are told, hurled rocks and bottles at fellow officers outside a detention center overnight, and that's according to KABC. As of yesterday, maybe something happened today. If it did, I haven't seen it yet. The White House, Donald Trump specifically, let me rephrase that. Donald Trump has had nothing to say about these rallies unless something's happened since I've been on the air today. But his spokesperson referred to these No Kings rallies as Trump derangement therapy sessions. Marcus, these are Trump derangement therapy sessions. And to that you say what?
We are in a season where the nation is deciding whether it will repair itself or unravel. And so what I hear in the Trump derangement syndrome therapy is that's gaslighting the unraveling. They rather frame it as people are unraveling rather than they are encountering what is a civic immune response. If democracy is a shared activity and it's a part of a body politic, authoritarianism is a version of a virus that can then infect the body politic. If we were talking about anatomy, we would then understand that any body is going to have an immune response to an invader. So these kinds of protests and rallies are the immune response that the body politic, will perform, thankfully, and perform it frequently, whether it be about ICE or other things, as long as there is this kind of dictatorship that is self-authorizing all sorts of things that heretofore have not been seen. Now, before I continue, I did want to ask you, Tavis, so I grew up with the boss being Miss Ross.
I got you.
And so I'm always, whenever I hear the boss, I'm like, so Diana Ross was at the King's rally? What? But of course, it's Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
I get it.
No. You know, I have never heard anybody say that to me. Only Marcus Anthony Hunter could chin check me on the boss being Diana Ross versus the boss as Bruce. How about I guess she's the female boss, he's the male boss. I don't know.
I realized that. I was like, that must be the case because they've never had it out either. They just both quietly allow each other to call themselves that.
That's exactly right. It's been long standing that she has been the boss, no question about it.
Miss Ross.
As has been Mr. Springsteen. So it is what it is. I ain't trying to start no fight between you and me or Diana and Bruce. So
I know that's right.
I'm as my grandmother said, we're gonna leave leave that lay where the good Lord done flung it. I'm going to leave that alone. But I take your point loud and clear about the boss. Let me circle back now that Mark is taking me completely off off target here. Let me circle back to these rallies because Donald Trump likes everything. You know, he brags about everything that he's ever done, being the biggest, the largest, the biggest ever, the biggest ever. So it turns out, if these numbers are accurate, these 8 million estimated people in these 3,300 No Kings protests across country, Marcus, it turns out that this now has set a record as the largest single-day demonstration in U.S. history. And I'm not turned on by it just because it set a record. My point is that if it is, in fact, and it appears to be, the largest single-day demonstration in the history of this country, only Donald Trump could bring that about. That's my point, Marcus.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think also what he has represented, I think also, because there's so many different fronts where, again, this is back to our earlier story about Ghana and the UN resolution, is that we are in a society that is built around harm. And so part of what I see expressed even in the remarks that you were able to play for us right before we started is that people are hitting on this overall theme of harm everywhere. And that the harm is coming without any kind of votes, without any kind of process, without democracy being involved. This is not right. You know, this is not how things are supposed to be operating. So I see overall, this is again about a call to repair, because everything that they're talking about are damages done. And so when damage is done, this is a call for repair and to end the harm.
Yep. I also have thought over the last few days about whether or not these No Kings protests are sustainable. Now, the evidence would suggest when you start with 5 million people and you go to 7 million, then you go to 8 million, the evidence would suggest so far, the data points to the fact that these things are sustainable and that you can in fact continue to grow these protests, to grow these numbers, to grow the outrage. And yet, because I'm a sports enthusiast and we're looking at the NCAA, we're looking at the NBA, I also know something about a team peaking too soon. You can peak too soon. We have a major election come November, and I wonder whether or not, to your mind, the growth in this opposition, the growth in this protest is sustainable to get us where we need to be in November, or are we peaking too soon?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, history is definitely going to tell us. I do think one of the things around this is when you hear No Kings, it sounds as a direct response to Donald Trump versus a direct response about any president or whoever occupies that office. And so I imagine as they continue at the clip, my hope would be by the time you get to 10 million people, you have a framework that anticipates, you know, midterm elections, that anticipates a presidential election, that is giving some form of direction so that people know who is available as a resource or solution to this No Kings problem.
I take that point. I hope that these protests are sustainable. Again, we have a few months to go to get to November to do what needs to be done to handle our business, and I'm hoping that these numbers are sustainable. These protests will continue to grow to get us where we need to be come later this year. Because I don't want to get into it with Marcus Anthony Hunter, and because I definitely want to get into it with the boss, Diana Ross, just to make Marcus smile. There you go. More when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking.
That's what we do around here.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hey guys, do you want male performance in the bedroom and do you want it now? Get it in 47 seconds or less. For the first time, you can have instant male enhancement. Introducing Nox 47, the topical male enhancement that works in 47 seconds or less. Satisfaction guaranteed. Finally, after years of scientific research, our proprietary formula will allow you to perform in the bedroom like never before. Just imagine that little blue pill on steroids. No reason to settle and wait when you can get instant performance now. Forget about pills and potions that make you wait hours or up to 30 days to work. That's yesterday's news. Nox 47 is brand new. The hottest thing for men. And you don't need a prescription. Call now and get your free supply for a limited time.
To find out how to get Nox 47 for free, call now. 800-677-1453. That's 800-677-1453. Free bottles for limited time. Call 800-677-1453. That's 800-677-1453.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go! Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
He's a paradigm pioneer and the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Okay, let me go from domestic to international. Here is Donald Trump on Friday talking about what else? Iran and, of course, throwing in Cuba. Take a listen.
No, but I was watching this and I'm hearing them saying, could he be losing the MAGA base? I don't think so. You know why? Because MAGA wants to win, number one. Number two, they want our country protected. They don't want another country out there that's hostile and crazy to have a nuclear weapon. And number three, they like us protecting certain allies, whether it's Israel or Saudi Arabia or Qatar or UAE, any of them. They want that. MAGA wants strength and they want victory. They want success. And that's what we have. And we have been very, very successful. You know, when I went into Venezuela, I said, because I campaigned on the fact peace through strength, you wouldn't have to use it. I built this great military. I said, you'll never have to use it. But sometimes you have to use it. And Cuba's next, by the way. But pretend I didn't say that, please. Pretend I didn't say that. Please, 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 media, please disregard that statement. Thank you very much. Cuba's next.
This is, I find myself saying this repeatedly, Marcus. It'd be laughable if it weren't so serious. I don't even know where to start. Digress. I mean, unpacking and that particular clip. I guess I start with the fact that here's Trump telling us the data says otherwise, the polling says otherwise, but he is going to insist that MAGA is supporting this Iran war, and overwhelmingly most Americans oppose what he's doing in Iran right now, number one. And then he continues making this joke about Cuba. Ain't nothing funny about that, but he thinks it is. But I digress.
Yeah, it's no kings, no bullies, no delusions. It is very much giving MAGA is MATA, making America delusional again. So even as he's saying it, some of what people are reporting are actually people with inside the MAGA movement saying that they don't like this, that they are actually anti-war and have a certain level of xenophobia, and they are very anti-international in terms of how they want their government working. And he's like, where are you hearing that? We definitely want to support certain allies, and MAGA is all about whatever I'm about to say out of my mouth, and just so that you are distracted and also gaslit. Oh, Cuba is next, but forget I said that. So there's a lot of gaslighting and delusion going on, because also part of what he's trying to get away from is the loss of being able to control the Iran narrative, which is that you said it was going to be a small situation, and we're getting more than a month out. And there looks like there's no solution in store. And one of, I think, the parts I would like to emphasize is that soon after the conflict war arose, is Iran then asked for what? Reparations. So part of what I also see is all of these other attacks that we're hearing, they all lead to reparations demands. Palestinians are requesting reparations in the wake of their devastation. Iran is requesting reparations. It sounds like Cuba's next, so Cuba will be asking for this reparations. And again, how you started, I think, is really the light that I feel connects so much of what is going on, is that he's creating all of this harm, and the immediate reaction is going to be, one, we didn't ask for you to do this. He's going to say, yes, you did, and you'll love it after I do it because it's going to be great. And then on the other side, those who are being harmed by the violence of it are asking for repair.
Yeah. We had Adrienne Shropshire on the program the other day. She is the founder of the Black Pack. And they do some of the best research with regard to the African-American voter in this country. And their recent polling finds that 85%, just north, I think, of 85% of black people absolutely are opposed to what's happening in Iran. I don't think that surprises anybody listening to this program. But that's darn near. I mean, 85% is that's about as close as you can get on black folk agreeing on anything. But 85% are in solidarity on the point that what Donald Trump is doing in Iran is wrong-headed any way you look at it. An interesting factoid that Adrienne shared with us a couple of days ago on this program. Our remaining moments with Marcus Anthony Hunter when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. 10 Toes In serves as a mentorship and domestic violence prevention program. They support, educate, and empower couples during and after incarceration. They assist male returning citizens to re-enter society successfully and to help them maintain a healthy relationship with their romantic partner. They offer a mentorship support group for formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In teaches its Intimate Relationships 101 curriculum at male prisons throughout the state of California. They host sister support group meetings for women who are intimately involved with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To access their services or make a donation, please visit them online at 10toesin.org or find them on Facebook or Instagram. They are healing lives through relationships. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this: Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Marcus Anthony Hunter for another 3 or 4 minutes here before we get to hour 2, which will kick off as it does every Monday and Thursday with Dr. Cornel West. But we continue now with Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter. So I played for you what Donald Trump had to say Friday about MAGA supporting the Iran war and joking repeatedly that Cuba is next. Here's what Iran's parliament speaker had to say. He said they are waiting and planning for a ground attack. They are waiting for this possible U.S. ground assault. As you likely know, 3,500 troops have arrived in the Middle East. So Mr. Trump and Mr. Hegseth have sent 3,500 troops to the Middle East. I quote now from the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament: "The enemy openly sends messages of negotiation and dialogue, but secretly is planning a ground attack." A ground attack, that is, close quote. Another quote here: "The U.S. is, quote, unaware that our men are waiting for American soldiers to enter on the ground so they can set them ablaze and punish their regional partners forever," close quote. That's serious. That they are upset that we're secretly sending messages trying to negotiate. Donald Trump wants a way out of this, but at the same time we're sending 3,500 troops to the Middle East, and he says again that the U.S. is unaware that our men are waiting for these American soldiers to enter on the ground so they can set them ablaze and punish their regional partners forever. As you know, Marcus, that the U.S. for some time now, thanks to the use of drones, and I say thanks to in air quotes, I'm not happy about that, but because of the, let me rephrase my language, because of the use of these drones, even in the Obama era, we these days don't really put troops on the ground. We just bomb you with our joysticks, right? So the conversation about putting troops on the ground is something we ain't even had to talk about for quite some time now. With regard to how our military engages. But here is Donald Trump and Hegseth sending 3,500 troops over to the Middle East, suggesting that there may be boots on the ground. But the Iranian prime minister has made it very clear: you can come in if you want to. We got something for you. There's no way you can do this without American casualties. And here's my final point. If the American people in every poll, survey, and study overwhelmingly oppose what Donald Trump is doing in Iran, how and why does he think he can put boots on the ground and see American soldiers come back home in body bags for a war we don't support?
Absolutely. I mean, part of it is about, the Republican Party and whether or not they are going to allow themselves to exist separately from the president and have an opinion that exists separately from the president. We still have not seen an appetite or a collective will to do that kind of work. And in lieu of that, what you get are these executive decisions that are putting people's children's lives in danger. One, I don't recall war or an option of war really being a part of our debate season or why people were picking a president. It was more in the case to end wars than it was to create new ones. And so he's created ones, he's abducted presidents, he's now threatening Cuba, publicly and openly. And so there's a lot of threats going around in a place that he relabeled the Department of War. Yep. And so I think part of what we're seeing is this throwback to causing and being the cause of so much conflict and disorder in the world that it is very unclear how that's supposed to be helpful in the midst of the fact that people are in a recession. It is directly something that impacts the cost of energy, which is required for people to actually be able to maintain work. I mean, we can talk about Los Angeles and California and the need for a car, and how these kinds of issues create economic issues that are now being exacerbated by pre-existing economic issues. That is all a disaster. And unfortunately, he's been allowed to be in a place where, as long as he says what he wants to say, he's in an echo chamber where that's true.
There's your first hour, courtesy of Marcus Anthony Hunter, professor, founding chair of the Department of African American Studies at UCLA, author of the book Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter, thank you for your time, sir. I'll talk to you soon.
You already know.
I appreciate you. From Marcus Anthony Hunter to Cornel West, you're listening to Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The TSA is warning that staffing shortages from the partial government shutdown could force small airports to close.
Some are sleeping in their cars, selling their blood and plasma, and taking on second jobs to make ends meet.
That's Deputy Administrator Havwen McNeil, who told Congress that 460 officers have quit since DHS ran out of funding. A House panel has found Black Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Sherfilis McCormick guilty of 25 ethics charges, including allegations she stole federal relief funds and funneled money into her campaign. The full committee will now consider penalties. And WNBA star Angel Reese is the new digital cover of Vogue Australia's April issue. The Chicago Sky forward makes history wearing her own Reebok AR1 sneakers on the cover. The feature spotlights her career and her unapologetically Angel shoe line. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Now is the time to save on an award-winning Nissan at the Nissan Now sales event, featuring the Rogue, Pathfinder, Frontier, and more. Don't wait. These offers are going fast. Shop your Southern California Nissan dealers and NissanUSA.com today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Congratulations to the UCLA women's basketball team. They advanced to the Final Four in the NCAA tournament for the second year in a row. UCLA overcame a sluggish first half to beat Duke 70-58 in the Sacramento Regional Final. 29 straight wins for the Bruins. They are 35-1. Lauren Betts scored 15 of her 23 points in the second half. The Bruins will play Texas or Michigan Friday night in Phoenix. The NCAA men's basketball Final Four is set. Illinois, Michigan, Arizona, and UConn. Lakers star Luka Doncic will serve a one-game suspension for tonight's home game against Washington. Doncic was hit with his 16th technical foul Friday night in the Lakers win over Brooklyn. The one-game suspension will cost Doncic $561,000. The Clippers beat Milwaukee Sunday 127-113. Benedict Mathurin had a game-high 28 off the bench. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
I'm holding
That's Dorothy Love Coates. I'm just holding on. Dr. West, Cornel West, chooses his walk-on music every Monday and Thursday, and it should not surprise you that gospel is in his repertoire. If you read his memoir, Brother West, he talks extensively about growing up in Shiloh Baptist Church in Sacramento. Reverend Willie P. Cook was his pastor, so he got it honest. Hey, Doc, how you doing today, sir?
My brother, I salute you. Nobody like Dorothy Love Coates out of Birmingham, Alabama, love warrior, freedom fighter, and the favorite alongside Mahalia Jackson. She was the favorite of Martin Luther King Jr. She opened so many of his rallies, so many of his meetings. And we need her voice, her witness, and her musical genius, brother.
Yeah. In a moment like this, what does it mean, that lyric, to be just holding on to your faith?
Well, it means in a moment that is so thoroughly thuggified and gangsterized, you need an anchor. You need a source that holds your soul together, a source that holds your character, your integrity, your honesty, your decency, your truth-telling and justice-bearing together. So you don't cave in, so you don't give up, so you don't sell your soul for a mess of pottage.
Yeah.
And we need those kinds of spiritual and moral grounding right now, my brother.
Yeah. Nothing like gospel, nothing like it. And we can tap into that bag as often as we want. But there you have Dorothy Love Coates. I'm just holding on, and I won't let go. Just holding on to my faith. These No Kings rallies, of course, were in full effect all across the country. Over 3,300 of them, 8 million people, we're told, making it the largest single day ever of protest in this country. I said earlier, only Donald Trump could bring that about. But I'm curious, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about it. What is your read of these No Kings rallies? And again, this is the third time around, and the numbers keep growing every time, Doc.
Well, I mean, I think it appears to be the case, my dear brother, that this is the best that the oppositional forces can do at the moment. And so in that sense, it's a very positive thing. My problem is it's just too intimately tied to the Democratic Party. And so you don't have the variety of voices, the variety of oppositional and prophetic voices, one. Two, when you focus on kings, you end up fetishizing one individual, and you don't talk about the system that produced him. You don't talk about the social and economic forces like Wall Street, like Silicon Valley, like the military-industrial complex, like the larger white supremacists and the larger xenophobic forces behind him. Trump is not doing this by himself. There's no such thing as a king who rules all by himself. And he's got facilitators. He's got folk who are enabling him in high places as well as other places. So you need that kind of analysis and vision when you're talking about opposition. As you know, I've been calling for a general strike for a whole year because you got to do something that's a threat, though, Brother Tavis. It can't just be symbolic, but symbols are important. But it can't be just symbolic, man.
Yep. There are a few things you've said I want to give you a chance to unpack. Number one, how should we read that, to your point, this is the best that the opposition can do at this moment? In so many ways, the opposition doesn't hold the cards, but I hear your comment that it appears to be at least the best that the opposition can do at this moment, these rallies, and how do we process that?
Well, it just means that, in a sick society, with a corrupt political system and with the morality itself so low, you're not going to get a whole lot of courageous vision or courageous action. You're going to get some significant vision and significant action. That's why I'm not downplaying the protest, but it's just not deep enough, and it's not cutting. It's not cutting in the way in which it should, given the nature of our catastrophic situation.
And I hear your other point about the fact that when you laser focus on the king, the emperor, you don't focus your attention more broadly on the apparatus, the structures, and the systems that allow him or her, for that matter, to him in this case, to operate. And yet it occurs to me as you were talking that's tricky terrain for the Democrats to expand their lens and to talk more than just about the king, a.k.a. Donald Trump, or the would-be king, a.k.a. Donald Trump, to expand their lens and to offer a critique of the system and the structures is tricky terrain. We'll talk about that part when we come forward on Smiley and West.
From the Mert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley.
They say time flies when you're having fun. The founding members cohort is now officially over. Hard to believe. It's been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, do not hesitate. Go to TavisTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavisTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-444-2013. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-444-2013. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-444-2013. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-444-2013 or biglou.com.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer. Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
He does indeed. Dr. Cornel West, who we have on this program, honored to have every Monday and Thursday, top of the second hour. I am reading that Donald Trump has issued a new threat to Iran. We'll get to that in just a second. I'll tell you what the Associated Press is reporting while I'm on the air here. But Donald Trump issues a new threat to Iran. We'll get to that in just a second here. After I let Doc continue what he was saying earlier, at least fine-tune it for me. This notion that he suggested earlier about these No Kings rallies and protests, nobody's downplaying it, nobody's poo-pooing it. At the same time, Doc's critique is that when you focus just on the king, you act as if he's doing this by himself. There are people, there are institutions, there are systems, there are structures that are allowing him to do so much of what he is doing, so much of what he is accomplishing. And even for Democrats, Doc, it is tricky terrain for them to expand their lens and to critique that system, to critique those structures beyond a laser focus on the king. Tell me more.
That's exactly right, though, brother. We'll put it this way, that if Gangster Trump, brother Gangster Trump, if he disappeared tonight, America still neo-fascist. You just have a new president, same forces in place, same xenophobia being enacted, the same weak opposition, the same organized greed on Wall Street in Silicon Valley, the same barbaric mass incarceration system, the same massive poverty. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder. I'm pausing because I'm just imagining. Somebody once said, "Imagine a world," right? I'm just trying to imagine a world where we could get the same kind of enthusiasm that we see present in these rallies and protests around a pushback against the systems and the structures, and not just a focus on the king. I wonder whether or not that would ever be possible in this country. Does that make sense? Dr. Aluji?
Can you hear me?
I hear you now. Yeah, you were gone for a second. You're back. Go ahead. Finish your. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Doc, your phone's cutting in. Miles talking, Doc. I think maybe, yeah. It's live radio. It happens every now and then. No big deal. Let me see if we can get him situated. He's going to call back, and we try to get that straightened out. In the meantime, that gives me time to tell you. So hold on to that question I asked, Doc. I do want to hear the answer to that. Whether or not we can actually imagine a time in this country where we would see the same kind. I love the enthusiasm. I'm sure Doc does as well. I love the enthusiasm. I love the energy. I love the numbers. I love the growth. I love the sustainability of it so far. 3 of these protests. I love all of that. And yet Doc is right in his point that you can do this when you're laser focused on the king, particularly if the would-be king is Donald Trump, who nobody seems to like. But what about that same kind of enthusiasm, that same kind of pushback against these systems and structures that exist? Because Doc's point is well taken. If Donald Trump died tomorrow, if he got pushed off the national stage tomorrow, these systems and structures are still in place. And where is the energy? Where's the pushback? Where's the fight back? Where's the progressive agenda and the energy pushing back on that? I was just saying, Doc, I would love to imagine that we could see this same kind of energy somewhere down the road, not just focused on Donald Trump, but on the systems and structures.
Absolutely. And that raises a deep question. Does America as an empire and a society, at its worst and at its best, have the capacity in its institutions and in its citizens to actually treat the masses of everyday people, of working people and poor people, with dignity? We know that when it comes to black humanity, full-blooded black humanity is still a new idea for large numbers of our fellow citizens. They can't respect us.
Yeah.
They can't respect our dignity. They wouldn't have us mass incarcerated. They wouldn't have us in the ghettos and the hoods like this. We wouldn't be treated like the police the way we are. We wouldn't have 300,000 of our black sisters pushed out of the labor force in 2 days. But it raises a larger question of capitalism. It raises a larger question of imperialism. So that your question is an open question. The important thing for us is to hold on. We got to bear witness in the face of whatever the possibilities are, because we don't love just based on calculation. We love because we're willing to tell the truth and live and die for something bigger than us.
That's why he came out the blocks today with Dorothy Love Coates. I'm just holding on. Y'all see what he did there? He connected those dots as only Cornel West could do. I saw that, man. I didn't miss that. I saw the dots being connected.
When y'all were talking about the boss, you were talking about the boss with Diana Ross. That's Ashford and Simpson. You know that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Leave it to Dr. West to put a finer point on it. It's Ashford and Simpson. He's right about that. I'll get to this breaking news about Iran in just a second here, but there's one other thing about Donald Trump that occurs to me while we're talking about this, is that Donald Trump cuts both ways. And here's what I mean by that. On the one hand, back to your brilliant and eloquent point about what it means to focus just on the king or the would-be king in these no kings rallies. We get it. The good news is that Donald Trump gives us something around which to rally. He gives us a target, if you will. And by target, I don't mean assassination target. I don't want CIA, FBI knocking on my door when I get off the air today. But he gives us something to focus on. That's my point. And so in that regard, he cuts one way. But the other way he cuts is that because he is such an outsized target, it allows us to see the blind spots that we have, Doc. And that's the point I think you're making, that we've got blind spots in our critique. So everybody hates Donald Trump. That's the easy part. The easy part is protesting Donald Trump. The easy part is saying no kings. The easy part is saying, get rid of him. The easy part is to talk about authoritarianism and fascism. That's the easy part at a very surface level. The harder part, which I hear Doc challenging us to really consider and to marinate and think about, is, to look at the blind spots that we have. So again, Trump, that's a layup. But the three-pointer, the Steph Curry half-court three-pointer, the shot with a greater degree of difficulty on it is critiquing, again, these systems, and we ain't quite got there yet, Doc. I take your point. But again, Trump cuts both ways.
Absolutely right.
Does that make sense?
That's exactly right, though, brother. And it's still a first step. That's why neither one of us are putting down the march.
That's right.
I'm glad people are out there, very much so. I just happen to believe that the Democratic Party is beyond redemption. I think it's just too tied into the same Silicon Valley, Wall Street, military-industrial complex folk. They can't say a mumbling word about genocide in Gaza. They can't say a mumbling word about poverty and mass incarceration. They can hardly say a mumbling word about what's going on. They're raising their voices in terms of the illegal, immoral war against the Iranian brothers and sisters, but they don't say too much about the internal repression going on in Iran. So that they're still running scared on a number of different fronts. But that's all right. Zero in on the king first, and then try to deal with the larger oppressive kingdom.
Nope, I got it. Ooh, the king first, and then the oppressive kingdom. Dr. West dropping bars again, as he always does. Doc mentioned mass incarceration. We're going to talk about mass incarceration today on this program, top of the second hour. Anna Lembke, Stanford professor and psychiatrist, she testified in this lawsuit against Meta and YouTube, which they were found guilty of creating addictive algorithms, essentially. So we'll talk about that with her because she spoke at that trial, testified at that trial. But we also had her on because it's been 65 years since the signing of the single convention on narcotic drugs, which many believe laid the foundation for the mass incarceration that Dr. West just referenced. We'll talk about that at the top of our third and final hour today. To Iran, and the breaking news I said that I've been reading in the last few minutes here. Let me just read from the Associated Press the first 3 or 4 paragraphs of this article. Trump issues new threat to Iran's civilian infrastructure if a ceasefire isn't reached shortly. And the word shortly is in quotes. That's Donald Trump's word. Let me read the first 3 paragraphs of this story from the Associated Press. U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday threatened widespread destruction of Iran's energy resources and other vital infrastructure, including desalination plants, if a deal to end the war with Tehran is not reached shortly. Shortly, again, is in quotes. On the ground, the conflict showed no sign of letting up. Tehran struck a key water and an electrical plant in Kuwait, and an oil refinery in Israel came under attack. Israel and the U.S. launched a new wave of strikes then on Iran. Last paragraph, Trump's new threat in a social media post and earlier comments in an interview with the Financial Times suggests American troops could seize the country's Karg Island oil export hub, a highlight of frequent. Let me slow down here, Tavis. Trump's new threat, let me do this again. Trump's new threat in a social media post and earlier comments in an interview with the Financial Times that suggested American troops could seize the country's Karg Island oil export hub highlight a frequent tactic. There we go. On the one hand, he has repeatedly said that talks with Iran are going well, though Tehran denies negotiating directly. On the other hand, he has continually ramped up his threats as thousands more Marines and other U.S. troops pour into the Middle East. So there's the Associated Press story. 3 things right quick, and I'll let Doc respond as he will. I told you earlier on today's program, some 3,500 U.S. troops have now arrived in the Middle East, number one. This article from the AP is correct. He continues to talk about, these negotiations, how well they're going, and yet he keeps threatening to do more militarily. And now that these 3,500 troops are in place, what are they there for? They ain't there for no reason. What's about to happen here? I quoted earlier the Prime Minister of Iran, who said, come in if you want to. Which is that quote? I got the quote right here. He said, the enemy openly sends messages of negotiation and dialogue, but secretly is planning a ground attack. That's their, I said Prime Minister, that's their parliament speaker. He goes on to say that the U.S. is unaware that our men are waiting for American soldiers to enter on the ground so they can set them ablaze and punish their regional partners forever. close quote. Here's the question, Doc. Again, on the one hand, quoting the AP, Donald Trump has repeatedly said that talks with Iran are going well. Tehran denies that. On the other hand, he's continually ramping up these threats as more troops have arrived there, and the threat today is that he is going to do damage to their infrastructure if a ceasefire isn't reached shortly, whatever shortly means. But he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, Dr. West.
Exactly. I mean, look, this is an imperial war. It's an immoral war. Trump confuses improvisation with utter confusion. That he thinks that he's doing X in order to send certain kind of signs and signals as some kind of tactic and strategy, when it's clear he and the Department of War don't know what they're doing, brother. It's in over their heads, and it could lead to World War III. So that we're in a situation again, when you've got gangsters who are driven by an ignorance and an arrogance, who are running things at the international level, they're in over their heads. And it's a very, very sad thing to see, and that's why we as participants, we raise our voices, we act against it, but we have to just call it for what it is. And then, of course, with all the lies that try to cover the confusion and try to cover the incompetence and try to cover the ways in which they're in over their heads, it just becomes, if it wasn't so serious, you'd have to laugh and say, oh, my God, this is a comedy written by Ishmael Reed or Mark Twain or some of our great comic writers. But no, this is as real as a heart attack, my brother.
No, I said to somebody yesterday that if you tried to sell this screenplay to Hollywood, they'd laugh you out the room.
Absolutely.
Nobody in Hollywood could have believed that this storyline, that this narrative were possible. If you had tried to sell this to Hollywood a few years ago, they would have laughed you out the pitch room.
That's so true.
Because nobody would have believed that something like this could ever be possible, and yet it's unfolding in front of our eyes every single day. I digress on that point. Let me circle back to this other issue that I raised earlier. I want to get your take on this notion of these 3,500 troops, U.S. troops that are now in the Middle East. It's hard for me to imagine. Maybe it's just part of his threat. It's just, part of his flex. But it's hard for me to imagine, given the way that we have sort of run away from putting boots on the ground, because, again, we can just use our joystick and drop bombs, remotely. We haven't seen a significant deployment of ground troops, American soldiers, that is, in a minute now. And so here you have all these thousands of troops that have been positioned in the Middle East. But every poll, survey, and study says overwhelmingly, Doc, most Americans oppose what Donald Trump is doing in Iran. What am I missing about the fact that most of us oppose this war in Iran, but you would actually roll the dice and take a risk of sending American soldiers back home in body bags? I'm missing something here.
No, I hear you. And we said before on this show that Trump cares about Wall Street and the stock market.
Yeah.
He cares about polls and sending, precious bodies in caskets back to the United States would affect the polls and the stock market. Now, what he said about John McCain and other soldiers gives you some sense that it's not primarily the soldiers he's concerned about.
Yeah.
But we shall see. But see, when you're in over your head, though, brother, you just grasping for straws as you're going under. Yeah. And it's a sad thing to see, but we just have to keep trying to hold our heads up, our souls intact, and tell the truth and be true to the best of who we are at a moment where it looks as if we're sliding down a slippery slope to chaos, man.
Yeah. At the moment, it's hard to see how this thing ends.
It's going in, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's hard to know. But, again, there's your latest threat from Donald Trump, that he's going back in. And these troops are already positioned if there is not a ceasefire shortly. And I don't see any signs of that. Iran is not backing down. They're continuing to launch missiles. So how you define ceasefire, I do not know. How you define shortly, I do not know.
That's right.
That's right. So I don't know. It's again, as I sit here, it's hard to imagine this, but we shall see what happens in the days ahead. But Dr. West is right. Dorothy Love Coates is right. We just got to hold on and not let go. Hold on to our faith. Dr. Cornel West here every Monday and Thursday, top of the second hour. Doc, love you much. I'll talk to you soon.
Love you, brother. Stay strong now.
Just may be for you. He put it in my heart. You can't change me. My soul's on fire. The world can't harm me. I'm working, toiling, praying, hoping, watching, waiting, trusting, believing, praying, in the morning, praying,
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Final preparations are underway for NASA's Artemis II launch, sending 4 astronauts on a 10-day mission to orbit the moon. Astronaut Victor Glover says there's been a lot of attention to the fact that he will be the first black person to orbit the moon.
I also hope we are pushing the other direction that one day we don't have to talk about these first. Human history, it's the story of humanity, not black history, not women's history.
The crew also includes Christina Cook and Canada's Jeremy Hansen, marking historic firsts. A new analysis shows the gender pay gap widened for the second straight year, with women now earning about 81 cents for every dollar men make. The gap is even larger for black women, who experts say could wait generations for pay parity without major changes. And Don Lemon was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Truth Awards in Los Angeles, celebrating black LGBTQ plus excellence. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Now is the time to save on an award-winning Nissan at the Nissan Now sales event, featuring the Rogue, Pathfinder, Frontier, and more. Don't wait. These offers are going fast. Shop your Southern California Nissan dealers and NissanUSA.com today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Congratulations to the UCLA women's basketball team. They advanced to the Final Four in the NCAA tournament for the second year in a row. UCLA overcame a sluggish first half to beat Duke 70-58 in the Sacramento Regional Final. 29 straight wins for the Bruins. They are 35-1. Lauren Betts scored 15 of her 23 points in the second half. The Bruins will play Texas or Michigan Friday night in Phoenix. The NCAA men's basketball Final Four is set. Illinois, Michigan, Arizona, and UConn. Lakers star Luka Doncic will serve a one-game suspension for tonight's home game against Washington. Doncic was hit with his 16th technical foul Friday night in the Lakers win over Brooklyn. The one-game suspension will cost Doncic $561,000. The Clippers beat Milwaukee Sunday 127-113. Benedict Mathurin had a game-high 28 off the bench. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. Less than 24 hours before a planned California governor's debate, USC and KABC Television Channel 7 pulled the plug after a week of growing outrage that not a single candidate of color had been invited to participate. USC says it was just math, polling numbers, fundraising totals, nothing personal. But here's the problem with that argument. Every one of the 6 candidates who made the cut was white, and every one of the candidates left out was not. At some point, the outcome is the message, regardless of the formula that produced it. The 4 excluded candidates, former U.S. Health Secretary Javier Becerra, former L.A. Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, former State Controller Betty Yee, and State Superintendent Tony Thurmond, are not fringe figures. These are people who've won major statewide elections and served millions of Californians. Here's the deeper lesson. California is one of the most diverse states in the nation. Latino voters, Black voters, and Asian American voters don't just live here. We decide elections here. When the people organizing a debate about California's future build a stage that looks nothing like California, they're not just making a scheduling error, they're sending a signal about whose voice matters. Even some of the invited candidates called on USC to expand the field, ostensibly because they understood what was at stake. That said, it is worth noting that none of the invited candidates had the courage to stand in solidarity with people of color and bow out of participating in the debate. But we'll leave that alone for now. Canceling the debate was not a victory, it was damage control. The real lesson is that diversity cannot be an afterthought in the criteria. It has to be baked into the thinking from the very beginning. Voters of color are not a special interest. We are the electorate. With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. As always, we welcome your feedback.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
I'm keeping my eyes on you. I bet you think I don't know nothing but singing the blues. Oh, sister, have I got news for you? I'm something. I hope you think that you're something too. Oh, girlfriend, I've been up that lonesome road and I've seen a lot of suns going down. Oh, but trust me, no low life's gonna run me around. So let me tell you something, sister. Remember your name, no twister. Gonna steal your stuff away, my sister. We sure ain't got a whole lot.
told Harpo to beat me. It was that mule, Paul. Old Joy, old Joy the mule, I tell you, I was out there trying to plow that Northfield, and the mule just went crazy. He started kicking and bucking, hit me right there, bust my eye, bust my lip. All my life I had to fight. I had to fight my daddy, I had to fight my uncles, I had to fight my brothers. Girl, child ain't safe in a family man's. But I ain't never thought I had to fight in my own house. I loves Harpo. God knows I do. But I kill him dead before I let him beat me. And that's a hoof print. Is that a hoof print, that, Paul?
No, that looked like a fist print.
Right? No, sir. No, sir. Ain't no fist touch my face. No, sir. Now, you want a dead son-in-law, Miss Seeley? You keep on advising him like you doing.
This life be over soon. Heaven lasts always.
Girl, you ought to bash Mrs. head open and think about heaven later.
As part of their Black Joy as Resistance season, Spelman College is premiering a new musical production of The Color Purple, written by Spelman alum Alice Walker. We will talk right about now to the play's director, Spelman professor Jade Lambert-Smith. Ms. Lambert-Smith, how are you today?
I'm quite well, Tavis. How are you doing? It's great to be on your program.
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I'm doing well and delighted to be in conversation with you. I had the honor of being at the premiere of The Color Purple here in L.A. All those years ago now when the film came out. And it is fascinating for me all these years later to consider what Alice Walker has created. It is something, to my mind, that is forever resonant. I assume you agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell me more about why, to your mind, it is forever resonant.
So, it's interesting to hear you say that because at that point, I was a child. Mm-hmm. I wondered if you were referring to the movie or the musical when you say that, because based on your generation, that's how people answer the question.
Yeah, the movie.
So, right?
Yeah.
I remember that point in time as a youth and how I felt like my community was polarized. People loved it or people hated it, generally based on their gender. I just remember being a young African-American girl here in Atlanta in love with the beauty of the pictures, the storytelling, these Black actors, many of which I'd never seen before, just telling a story that to this day, almost 40, if not more than 40 years later, resonates in our whole country. It's not what we would call Black famous. This story is famous. Yeah. It is American history. Yeah. And it's had so many different permutations since that moment. And now as I bring it home to Spelman College, I'm really excited about what this story has actually done for the youth involved in this experience. It's been an absolutely transformative experience. It's been wonderful.
Tell me more about that part. Since you went there, I want to follow you, the transformative part of this for the students. Tell me about that.
Awesome. So I am an adjunct lecturer at Spelman. I'm also an alum. And I previously taught at Spelman approximately, when you think about 15, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I did musicals then as well. And musicals aren't something that we often do in the Atlanta University Center. So when I came back as an adjunct lecturer to give back to the community, I said, hey, I would really love to workshop a musical, and I'd love for that musical to be The Color Purple, because my goal as a practitioner is to always help the students build their skills. So I thought, I'd met a lot of students in my time at Spelman who had the skills of what we called a multi-hyphenate performer, or some people used to say a triple threat. They could sing, dance, and act. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what better piece to build their technique than The Color Purple? And because, we're a liberal arts college, I also wanted them to interact with the text because it's an epistolary novel. And so many of them, their only interaction with The Color Purple was through the movie or the musical, mm-hmm. but the book does so much more. So we integrated the book into the process, and they all read the novel. And honestly, their lives were changed. There's just so much that the novel fills in that's not necessarily present in the musical or the movie, but it reflects Black life in such a way that even though the story is set over 100 years ago, the story runs from 1909 to 1947, they still see themselves, their family, and our community reflected in Alice Walker's words. And that was something that I couldn't even imagine how they were changed. I actually have a young cast member. He's a senior, graduating Morehouse senior. And the rest of his castmates laughed at him. They tease him about the fact that he sleeps with a book by his forehead in his dorm room. Because whenever he has a new thought, he opens it up, he annotates it and writes the thought there. So it's given them an opportunity to really connect with the work in which they hadn't before. And there's something to be said from taking a piece from the page to the stage.
No, I hear your point that the book does, in fact, offer so much more, and I think you're right about that. What I'm curious about, and I want to ask you this when we come forward, let me just tee it up now and let you respond to it when we come forward, and that is the point you made earlier about how visceral the reactions were to this project. I remember it well. There were, as you said quite eloquently, visceral responses to it. People loved it or they hated it. I wonder how it's falling, the color purple that is, how it's falling on a new generation of young folk at Spelman, Morehouse, and beyond who are discovering this work. I'm curious about that. We'll get an answer to that question and more from Jade Lambert-Smith when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey guys, do you want male performance in the bedroom and do you want it now? Get it in 47 seconds or less. For the first time, you can have instant male enhancement. Introducing Nox 47, the topical male enhancement that works in 47 seconds or less. Satisfaction guaranteed. Finally, after years of scientific research, our proprietary formula will allow you to perform in the bedroom like never before. Just imagine that little blue pill on steroids. No reason to settle and wait when you can get instant performance now. Forget about pills and potions that make you wait hours or up to 30 days to work. That's yesterday's news. Nox 47 is brand new. The hottest thing for men. And you don't need a prescription. Call now and get your free supply for a limited time.
To find out how to get Nox 47 for free, call now. 800-677-1453. That's 800-677-1453. Free bottles for limited time. Call 800-677-1453. That's 800-677-1453.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go. Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
soundtrack on Color Purple is a cold piece. I love the soundtrack. It was the book, the musical, the film, just amazing pieces of work. I think of all the persons who had their hands on this, not the least of which was the late, great Quincy Jones and all the actors and Spielberg, and just an amazing coming together of some pretty brilliant talent to bring up this project. Jade Lambert-Smith is a Spelman College adjunct professor, director of the new musical production of The Color Purple. We were talking moments ago about how she had these students at Spelman and Morehouse at the AU Center tap into the book, because the book, as she put it, does offer so much more. Indeed, it does. But she also mentioned earlier about what she recalled, as do I, about the visceral response to this project when Alice Walker brought it forth. People loved it or they hated it, and so I said I wanted to know, and I do, what your sense is of the way this generation is receiving this work from Alice Walker all those decades ago. Is it still that visceral response? Is it still a line of demarcation? You love it or you hate it?
I do believe it's a more balanced response. Initially, most of the students reject the piece because if you think about it, the theme for Spelman this year is joy is resistance. Mm-hmm. I got over a dozen inquiries of how is this book? Where is there any joy in this book? I don't see it.
Yeah.
And so I said, you've seen the movie? Yes. You've seen the musical? Yes. I said, you've read the book? Some of it. I said, finish the book. Because I remember being 13 years old, reading the book, and shocked when I closed the book because Mr. Albert actually had a redemption story that didn't show up in the movie. And I loved what Alice does with Mr. And we don't get to, if you only see the movie, you don't get to see that experience, but it does happen in the musical. So I kept telling them, finish the book. Mm-hmm. And when they did, it's almost like the gates of heaven opened, because everybody in this story, in her written story and in the musical, is redeemed. They get to change, they get to grow just like we do as human beings. And I wanted them to see that no one is wholly a villain as Mr. is painted to be. And I think the musical with, written by Brenda Russell, Eiley Willis, and Marsha Norman and other greats, really do a great job of bringing that back home, which is missing in the movie. Mm-hmm. I think Mr.'s redemption story is hugely important to the power of Black community and how we all can change and we all can see what we've done and choose to do something differently. And he does that with power, because if we're honest, Nettie and Adam and Olivia, Celie's sister and son and daughter, don't make it back home without Albert choosing to sell off pieces of his land, which he uses to get their visas to come back to America. So I think those factors are important to tell people that everyone can change, everyone can evolve, and everyone can grow. And I believe they really begin to grow and understand the power of their own transformation by looking at the characters in this book.
In our remaining moments with Jade Lambert-Smith, I want to talk about that notion of Black joy as resistance, the theme at Spelman this year. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The BLM Center for Black Power is a hub for Black activism in the city of Los Angeles, a standalone nonprofit affiliated with Black Lives Matter LA. The venue is home to live events, meetings, and organizing drives for Black-led community-based organizations. It is also the base of operations for Black Lives Matter LA. Built on what used to be a nuisance property owned by an arms dealer, the BLM Center for Black Power is in the heart of Leimert Park and has opened its doors to everything from youth organizers to toy drives to film screenings and community town hall meetings. To make a donation or make a request, please visit blmla.org. That's blmla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Did you know about 1 in 3 people with plaque psoriasis may also develop psoriatic arthritis, which causes joint pain, stiffness, and swelling? Does this sound like you? Listen to what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Tremfya, guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy, and for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Imagine being a million miles away. Explore what's possible. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Visit tremfya.com or call 1-800-526-7736.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this: skills first hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
You are indeed Tavis Smiley and Jade Lambert-Smith for the next 4 minutes here. Let me squeeze in a few things in 4 minutes. This production of The Color Purple, brought to you by Spelman Theater and Performance, runs March 31 through April the 12th. March 31 through April 12th. Jade Lambert-Smith is the director of it. I want to ask you a couple questions right quick in the time I have. One, before I get to this Black Joy as Resistance, the theme this season at Spelman, I love this innovative project you created for these students called Letters to Alice. Tell me more right quick. Letters to Alice.
Absolutely. I asked, because the book is an epistolary novel, I asked them to write letters to Alice every time they had a reflection, a discovery, a connection from the book. And they had to write them with a pen or a pencil on a piece of paper.
Imagine that.
And we're actually right, and we're actually posting them in the lobby, and they'll also be reading the pieces, and we'll be sharing them on social media. And it's been a beautiful opportunity to hear them share their hearts with Alice, which of course Alice isn't aware, Miss Walker isn't aware of this, but it's an opportunity for them to build and connect and use their voice.
Yeah, no, I love that. Tell me about this theme. I love it. Black Joy as Resistance. I laughed as others did. I'm sure when you said earlier that there were some folk who were like, Jade, where's the joy in this? But that theme, Black Joy as Resistance, means what to you? Unpack it for me.
Ooh. Well, it means, as you know, right now in the world, it means choosing to find joy anyway when people opt for us to focus on the negative. It means choosing, for these students, choosing to know that being in college and focusing on their life's purpose is going to be the most important thing that they can do, because when whatever we're going through right now turns over, they have to be ready to run the world. And that's what I remind them of consistently. You're here because you want to be here. This is your major, this is your gift, and you want to live in it. Be the best you can be, because history always changes, and you want to make sure that you are in front of whatever occurs. So their Black joy is choosing to live their life on purpose for themselves, just like the women in The Color Purple, Nettie, Sophia, and Shug teach Celie to do.
Yeah. What's your hope for the takeaway for this project, The Color Purple, being produced in 2026 in Atlanta?
Well, I will say this production features students from Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, and Spelman. It's equally distributed. So it's not really a Spelman production. It's an Atlanta University production.
Fair enough.
And the idea that students from all over right now are coming together to create the art that is transforming lives means that hopefully in the future, they'll choose to do the same thing for us and be running the airwaves and the showrunners that are telling stories that reflect who we want to be.
Yeah, not so fast, though. I ain't done yet. Not so fast. I'm not.
Yes, sir.
It sounds like Jade trying to push me out the studio, out my chair already. Hold up, Jade. Hold up. Wait a minute. Just teasing.
You said it was a hot seat. I was ready. The seat was hot.
No, I love it. I love it. Glad to have had you on. It's The Color Purple, March 31 through April 12th. If you are in Atlanta, anywhere near the AU Center, check it out. I love the fact that it's an AU Center production. As she said, all these students from these different colleges have come together to produce this. And I'm just enthralled all these years later that Alice Walker's work is still ongoing and that people are still wrestling with the powerful themes raised in this amazing work called The Color Purple. Jade Lambert-Smith, good to have you on. All the best to you.
Thank you so much, Tavis. Good to be here.
My pleasure. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Final preparations are underway for NASA's Artemis II launch, sending 4 astronauts on a 10-day mission to orbit the moon. Astronaut Victor Glover says there's been a lot of attention to the fact that he will be the first black person to orbit the moon.
I also hope we are pushing the other direction that one day we don't have to talk about these first. Human history, it's the story of humanity, not black history, not women's history.
The crew also includes Christina Cook and Canada's Jeremy Hansen, marking historic firsts. A new analysis shows the gender pay gap widened for the second straight year, with women now earning about 81 cents for every dollar men make. The gap is even larger for black women, who experts say could wait generations for pay parity without major changes. And Don Lemon was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Truth Awards in Los Angeles, celebrating black LGBTQ plus excellence. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Now is the time to save on an award-winning Nissan at the Nissan Now sales event, featuring the Rogue, Pathfinder, Frontier, and more. Don't wait. These offers are going fast. Shop your Southern California Nissan dealers and NissanUSA.com today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Congratulations to the UCLA women's basketball team. They advanced to the Final Four in the NCAA tournament for the second year in a row. UCLA overcame a sluggish first half to beat Duke 70-58 in the Sacramento Regional Final. 29 straight wins for the Bruins. They are 35-1. Lauren Betts scored 15 of her 23 points in the second half. The Bruins will play Texas or Michigan Friday night in Phoenix. The NCAA men's basketball Final Four is set: Illinois, Michigan, Arizona, and UConn. Lakers star Luka Doncic will serve a one-game suspension for tonight's home game against Washington. Doncic was hit with his 16th technical foul Friday night in the Lakers win over Brooklyn. The one-game suspension will cost Doncic $561,000. The Clippers beat Milwaukee Sunday 127-113. Benedict Mathurin had a game-high 28 off the bench. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Would someone please hang that phone up?
We're sorry. You must first dial a 1 when calling this number.
Operate the body. Operate on me. Operate the body. Take control of me. Operate the body. Operate on me. Take control of the body. Take control of me.
I'm Tavis Smiley. Glad to have you with us in this third and final hour of our program today. Two amazing guests to wrap up today's 3-hour show. In this hour, two conversations I mentioned on the backside. We will speak with the legendary computer scientist and futurist Jaron Lanier, also known as the father of virtual reality, to get his thoughts on the road ahead for social media following this major case, this major verdict against Meta and YouTube. Big Tech just got hit, and we'll talk with Jaron about why this lawsuit could change social media as we know it forever. But we commenced this hour with Stanford University professor Dr. Anna Lembke, who testified in this big court case against Meta and YouTube as a psychiatrist. I also want to get her thoughts while I've got her here today. I get her reflections on the 65th anniversary of the single convention on narcotic drugs, which many believe laid the foundation for mass incarceration in this country. We were talking about mass incarceration earlier today with Dr. Cornel West. Before I do any of that, let me welcome Dr. Anna Lembke back to this program. Hey, Doc, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back.
It's good to have you on the program. I know that there are some areas that you can go into, some areas you cannot go into, given your testimony and given, I suspect, there'll be other trials, given the success of this one. So I'm mindful of that. So hopefully won't ask you anything that you can't talk about. And if you can't, just tell me and I'll back up. But let me just set the stage for those who may have heard about this story but don't know the details, or just a quick refresher here. So Meta and YouTube were found liable for deliberately designing addictive products that hooked a young user and led to her being harmed. That's what the jury found here in L.A. Last Wednesday. Jurors found the tech companies to be both negligent and having failed to provide adequate warnings about the potential dangers of their products. The jury awarded the plaintiff in this case damages of $6 million, with Meta being told to pay 70%, YouTube paying the remainder. It took nearly, 9 days of deliberations for the jury here in L.A. to reach its verdict. The lawsuit over social media's alleged harm to young people was, in fact, the first of its kind to go to trial. But as I mentioned, you better believe it ain't the last one of its kind to go to trial. But it was historic in that regard. I mentioned earlier, Dr. Anna Lembke testified at the trial. And again, because other lawsuits I suspect are coming, there's only so much she can say. But I am curious, and I know the audience is curious, as to how you came to be one person who testified in this case. Can you tell me that, Dr. Lembke?
Sure. So I have written a book called Dopamine Nation, Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence, which is about how the application of technology to many different aspects of modern day life, including digital media, has made all of these substances and behaviors more accessible, more abundant, more potently reinforcing, and therefore more potentially addictive. So because of my expertise in addiction, including addiction to not just drugs and alcohol, but also behaviors, including what we're doing online, I was asked to essentially educate the jury about how it is that people can become addicted to digital media, including social media, and what are the design features that make it addictive.
Mm-hmm. So what can you tell me then? I'm treading carefully here, and these difficult, these are always tough conversations to have. I ask myself, do I really want to talk to Dr. Anna Lembke right now? Because I know I can only get so much out at the moment. So tell me, because I don't know where I don't know where I am with you. Tell me what you can tell me about the way you inform the jury. Tell me about your approach. What can you say?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so I'm happy to talk about, the science behind how it is that social media can be engineered to be addictive. When you look at the features that make anything addictive, one of the biggest risk factors is simple access to our drug of choice. Mm-hmm. If you live in a neighborhood where drugs are sold on the street corner, you're more likely to use them and more likely to get addicted to them. The opioid epidemic is another great example. Doctors prescribing more opioids for minor and chronic pain conditions led to more people getting addicted to and dying from opioids. And what you have with social media is 24/7 access. And by the way, let me just emphasize that these trials were focused on minors, or basically teens and kids, which is an important distinction. Right. Because I think in a liberal democratic society, there are legal drugs and adults are going to do what they're going to do. But we already have guardrails for minors, right? We don't let minors buy alcohol and cigarettes. We don't let cigarette companies advertise their products to minors. We don't let minors go into casinos and gamble. So these are important distinctions. And we don't have any guardrails like that for kids and teens. Right. So getting back to this access, the social media platforms have been designed for the mobile phone, which means that kids have access to them 24/7 in their beds, in the bathrooms, at school and at home, where a lot of them sit on the toilet and scroll and brain rot, while they're riding the bus, really anywhere. And in addition to that, there are not effective age verifications. So you're supposed to be 13 to get on these platforms, but lots of tweens, kids who are 10, 11, 12, and even younger are on these platforms. We're talking millions of kids. So it's the lack of effective age verification, the lack of effective parental controls, the adapted for the mobile phone 24/7, anywhere, anytime, that basically creates the increased access that contributes to the addictive potential. Not to mention the endless scrolls, the autoplay, all of that is creating more abundance. And so again, these are specific design features that make the platform more addictive. And there are more related to the potency, the novelty, uncertainty. Happy to talk about those additional design features if that's helpful.
She mentioned this case, and correctly so, of course. This case was about teens and kids. I have a question specifically about adults. Are we any different than them when it comes to our capacity, our ability to be addicted? Even though this case didn't focus on adults, it focused on younger people. I have a question specifically about adults when we come forward, and a few other things I want to get out of Dr. Anna Lembke. When we come forward talking about this major lawsuit against Meta and YouTube that they lost about the addictive nature of the stuff that they create for us. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
BET and PBS, the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and NPR, the cover of Jet and the cover of Time. #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list, 20 honorary doctorate degrees, a dozen NAACP Image Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. From talk shows to talk radio, nobody's ever done it better. You like that? This is Tavis Smiley.
They say time flies when you're having fun. The founding members cohort is now officially over. Hard to believe. It's been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now, the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, do not hesitate. Go to TavisTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavisTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
We're at Doolin's on Crenshaw. It's a special place where the neighborhood comes together. Got the fried chicken, the catfish, the candied yams, the mac and cheese. It's all delicious. I'm Isaac Bryan. I represent the Crenshaw District in the California State Legislature, and I'm supporting Tom Steyer for governor of California. California is under attack, and we need a fighter who's going to come in on day one and stand up for California values and push back. That person is Tom Steyer. Tom and I have been fighting together for the better part of a decade. Tom is the only candidate supported by smart justice, because Tom has stood on the front lines of racial justice, economic justice, and true solidarity. Tom is the real deal. He's the only candidate in the race with a comprehensive plan to make the billionaires and the corporations pay their fair share so we can fund things like universal health care and education. He means what he says, and he does what we need. This is a moment when we've got to fight fire with fire, and I believe that that fire is Tom Steyer.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no. So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that ketchup.
Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Dr. Anna Lembke of Stanford University, author of the massive New York Times bestseller Dopamine Nation. That came out in 23, as I recall. Dopamine Nation, Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence. Because of that and her amazing work, she was asked to testify, called to testify, in this case against Meta and YouTube, a case that they lost. Found liable for deliberately designing addictive products that hooked a particular young user and led to her being harmed. The jury ruled in her favor last Wednesday, hit Meta and YouTube with a $6 million fine. Meta ordered to pay 70%, YouTube the remainder. The first of its kind, this case was, to go to trial, but you can rest assured there'll be others, given what happened in this particular case. And so trying to get some insight from Dr. Anna Lembke, not so much in what she testified about. She's kind of boxed in on what she can say about that, given that there'll be other cases to come, I suspect. But we are focusing in on the science that she testified about, that she can talk about. And so you were talking earlier about the fact that this case specifically related to to young users. But I wonder whether or not the impact that these products have on young folk is the same impact they have on adults if we spend an inordinate amount of time on our screens.
Absolutely. So adults, just as well as kids, can get addicted to their phones and to social media. In fact, I think that we have a silent epidemic of much older people who, by virtue of, general health problems and other reasons, are in isolation, who are spending more and more time on their devices. And this is, I think, an unrecognized problem. But having said that, it is also true that the teenage or developing brain is a more vulnerable brain when it comes to addiction. We know that the earlier that a child's brain is exposed to addictive substances and behaviors, including social media, the more likely that child will get addicted to social media and also suffer the other downstream harms like depression, anxiety, cyberbullying, body dysmorphia, eating disorder, suicidal ideation, self-harm, etc. In fact, a recent study came out showing that 12-year-olds who have been given their own smartphones are at much higher risk for depression and anxiety than 12-year-olds who do not have their own personal smartphone, even when controlling for other factors. So for all the parents out there, who are thinking about when to give your child a smartphone, all I can say is the later, the better. And although your kid will tell you they need it to be socially connected, and that may be to some extent true, the harms probably outweigh the risks. I mean, sorry, the risks outweigh the harms.
Yeah. I wonder whether or not, I hope this is a question you can answer, and if not, I'll push past it. But since you talked about parents and parental control, it is the case, as you well know, that every other day, and I'm putting too much on it, but routinely, we are seeing verdicts in cases where parents are being held responsible and complicit for the behaviors of their kids. And this audience is a bright audience, so they understand the cases I'm talking about. Some involve weaponry, some involve, but we see these cases where more and more parents are being held to account for the behaviors of their kids. In this case, you were talking about parental control, and you just made the point a moment ago that the later, the better for parents to give smartphones to their kids. Is there something you can say, is something that you've seen in your research about not just about parental control, parental involvement, but how do we process this notion of adult complicity? Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah. And it's a great question. And it's a really important point. Obviously, parents bear some responsibility here, and there's lots of blame to go around. But the reason that with social media, we cannot ignore the culpability of the corporations and pin it all on parents is because even the very best parent out there, let's say the perfect parent and the perfect family, if such a thing exists, cannot control their child's use of social media. It is impossible. Very difficult to take the devices away or limit use. Once kids have become addicted, they can just go out and get or buy another device. We know that, for example, with Instagram, kids are out there making Finstagram accounts. That is to say, a fake Instagram. So they'll have one Instagram account that their parents are monitoring, and then they'll have like multiple fake Instagram accounts where their parents have no idea what's going on. The kids take the devices, in their beds, they hide them. I mean, any parent can tell you that despite their best efforts to try to monitor and protect and limit their child's social media use, it is simply impossible. It's impossible. So that's why we really need everyone to come to the table, including the corporations that make and profit from these incredibly profitable digital media products.
Yeah. This is not a question about your testimony. It is a question, though, I warn you about your preparation to testify. And my question is simply this. When you are called upon as an expert to testify in a case that you know is going to be historic one way or the other, we knew that at the outset. Here is a case for the first time ever where a young person is taking these tech giants, in this case YouTube and Meta, to court for addicting her and causing her harm. So the case was iconic, historic, legendary at the outset, no matter what the verdict was going to be. The verdict was going to go one way or the other, and we were waiting on that for these, 6 weeks or so that this trial took place, and then those 9 days, as I recall, of deliberations. But the outcome was going to be newsworthy no matter what happened here. So when you're an expert and you get called to testify in a case like this, tell me more, if you can, about your approach, how you saw your role, how you assessed how you were going to occupy this space, if I can put it that way, as an expert witness.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure, it really changes one way or another. I have a very specific role to fulfill based on my skills, knowledge, education, training, research, and experience. I evaluate the data, and then I testify, based on the science and, again, my training, knowledge, and experience. So, the fact that it was, I agree with you that this is a historic case. Right. But I think my role doesn't really change case to case. I'm just kind of doing, my very small part, which is to form an opinion based on the evidence, and that's what I did.
Yeah. What do you think, again, a question not about your testimony, but about the fact that we're having a conversation about it, as everybody else is. What's your sense of what this means? Does this verdict, it obviously means something. You have any thoughts on what this verdict does, in fact, mean for the future?
Yeah, this was a really important case, in large part because it was a product liability case, and because there is something called Section 230, which basically says you can't sue digital media companies for third-party content, which has prevented these cases coming forward before. So this case really hinged on these design features. I've talked a little bit about sort of the endless, the infinite scroll, the autoplay, but there are other really important design features on these platforms that make them inherently addictive. For example, the algorithm that tailors the platform specifically for that person, essentially creating their drug of choice in real time. They're the beauty filters, the short form videos, the quantification, the number of likes, shares, posts, followers. There's this contagion effect. That is to say, once you see something one person is doing and you get more and more videos of that, then it becomes part of how you construct your reality. So these all increase the potency. And also the kind of this sort of novelty, uncertainty, or slot machine effect, which is really powerful on social media. This kind of like engaging our brain's treasure-seeking function so that we stay on longer, looking for that next novel, exciting thing right around the next algorithmic bend. And the reason that, these design features were so critical to the case was because they were independent of the content. So whether you were looking at, videos of, raccoons prowling around at night or sports or what have you, it's the design features, the way that the algorithm, studies you and then keeps you engaged through these engineered technological affordances. And so what I hope and what many people hope is that going forward, by holding these companies accountable, they'll have to change these design features and make their products less addictive. For example, by not having this sort of algorithmic feed, but maybe a different kind of feed, like a chronological feed, getting rid of beauty filters, getting rid of the likes, the shares, the number of followers, having robust age verification, having better parental controls, turning off notifications. All of these things for kids should happen by default if we're going to have a platform that is safer for kids. And I think that that's really going to be what we're looking for going forward.
Nope, I appreciate that. Let me pivot in the 3 or 4 minutes. I have 4 minutes I have left here to another topic that I want to get your take on since I've got you here. I mentioned to this audience earlier that we are now at the 65th anniversary of the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs. This coming together, this document that many believe laid the foundation for mass incarceration in America. As a psychiatrist, I want to tap into that part of your expertise, and I wonder if you might say a word about the connection, to the extent you believe there is one, between this single convention on narcotic drugs 65 years ago and where we find ourselves today on the issue of mass incarceration in this country.
Yeah, I mean, so the issue here, which is no surprise to your listeners, is that if you have a criminal justice system, that is inherently structurally racist, then you are disproportionately incarcerating, Black and brown people. And that is definitely a feature of the war on drugs and also a feature of the opioid epidemic. So it's very important when we're trying to help people get out of addiction that we do let them experience the natural negative consequences of their addiction, because that is what motivates change. On the other hand, we can't have consequences in a criminal justice system that disproportionately and unfairly affects one group over others. So striking that balance is key. And I think in particular, identifying that addiction is a brain disease and that what we need to do is incentivize treatment and use the criminal justice system in collaboration with the medical system to get people into addiction treatment and not just, warehouse them.
Yeah. I wonder, when it comes to this notion of mass incarceration, it has become, so mass. It is mass incarceration, but it's become so mass. I wonder sometimes whether or not we can ever U-turn on this, Dr. Lembke. If there's anything that can be done about it at this point.
I mean, I sure hope so. I mean, what we have here is sort of the merging of a mass incarceration problem plus a growing addiction epidemic, where you have drugs that are more potent than ever before, more accessible than ever before, cheaper than ever before. So ironically, you have a world in which we've all become more vulnerable to addiction, not just to traditional drugs and alcohol, which are more accessible and more potent and cheaper, but also drugs that didn't exist before, like social media. So we've got this really unprecedented time in human history when we've sort of drugified everything. And, then you've got this criminal justice system that is was struggling to provide treatment over just mass incarceration. And then you release people and they're released to a world where drugs are incredibly available, incredibly cheap. They're going back to their same lives. They're not given, an opportunity to kind of pursue a new life. And so, they end up just back in jail. It is a huge problem. Yep.
Got 60 seconds left here. I'll ask you to set your modesty aside just for a second. Dopamine Nation, Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence. Your book was a massive massive bestseller. And I wonder whether or not, since the publication of that book, you've seen anything as a result of your research and work that is pointing us in a better direction or pointing us more in a right direction, given the way that people had to process what you brought forth.
Well, thank you for that. What I'm seeing is much greater awareness of the problem of addiction, a much greater understanding of the problem of addiction, not just because of my work, the work of many other people, and also many people's lived experience. Like even people who never had addiction to drugs and alcohol, they've got a smartphone in their hands, and now they're going, oh boy, like I'm noticing a problem. So I think that is really a positive, greater awareness, greater self-awareness, even greater compassion and empathy for people who have addiction, because we're all struggling with our little minor addictions to digital media. On the other hand, I would say that what I'm seeing is a problem globally really just getting worse. That people, that addiction is rising. And I think in many ways we can think of addiction as sort of the modern plague. I think we're going to be struggling with addiction as the major public health problem for the foreseeable hundreds of years.
No, I hear you loud and clear. Not what we want to hear, but I hear you nonetheless. Stanford University professor and psychiatrist testified at this case against YouTube and Meta. Her massive best-selling text is called Dopamine Nation, Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence. Dr. Lembke, thank you for your insights. Good to have you on this program.
Oh, you're very welcome.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. Forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Final preparations are underway for NASA's Artemis II launch, sending 4 astronauts on a 10-day mission to orbit the moon. Astronaut Victor Glover says there's been a lot of attention to the fact that he will be the first black person to orbit the moon.
I also hope we are pushing the other direction, that one day we don't have to talk about these first. Human history, it's the story of humanity, not black history, not women's history.
The crew also includes Christina Cook and Canada's Jeremy Hansen, marking historic firsts. A new analysis shows the gender pay gap widened for the second straight year, with women now earning about 81 cents for every dollar men make. The gap is even larger for black women, who experts say could wait generations for pay parity without major changes. And Don Lemon was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Truth Awards in Los Angeles, celebrating Black LGBTQ plus excellence. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Now is the time to save on an award-winning Nissan at the Nissan Now sales event, featuring the Rogue, Pathfinder, Frontier, and more. Don't wait. These offers are going fast. Shop your Southern California Nissan dealers and NissanUSA.com today.
Make this summer one to remember at MGM Grand Las Vegas. Lounge by the pool, catch world-class entertainment, indulge in unforgettable dining, and experience the energy only MGM can deliver. Plan your Vegas escape today at MGMRewards.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Congratulations to the UCLA women's basketball team. They advanced to the Final Four in the NCAA tournament for the second year in a row. UCLA overcame a sluggish first half to beat Duke 70-58 in the Sacramento Regional Final. 29 straight wins for the Bruins. They are 35-1. Lauren Betts scored 15 of her 23 points in the second half. The Bruins will play Texas or Michigan Friday night in Phoenix. The NCAA men's basketball Final Four is set. Illinois, Michigan, Arizona, and UConn. Lakers star Luka Doncic will serve a one-game suspension for tonight's home game against Washington. Doncic was hit with his 16th technical foul Friday night in the Lakers' win over Brooklyn. The one-game suspension will cost Doncic $561,000. The Clippers beat Milwaukee Sunday 127-113. Benedict Mathurin had a game-high 28 off the bench. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicordoli Corte. Less than 24 hours before a planned California governor's debate, USC and KABC Television Channel 7 pulled the plug after a week of growing outrage that not a single candidate of color had been invited to participate. USC says it was just math, polling numbers, fundraising totals, nothing personal. But here's the problem with that argument. Every one of the 6 candidates who made the cut was white, and every one of the candidates left out was not. At some point, the outcome is the message, regardless of the formula that produced it. The 4 excluded candidates, former U.S. Health Secretary Javier Becerra, former L.A. Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, former State Controller Betty Yee, and State Superintendent Tony Thurmond, are not fringe figures. These are people who've won major statewide elections and served millions of Californians. Here's the deeper lesson. California is one of the most diverse states in the nation. Latino voters, black voters, and Asian American voters don't just live here. We decide elections here. When the people organizing a debate about California's future build a stage that looks nothing like California, they're not just making a scheduling error, they're sending a signal about whose voice matters. Even some of the invited candidates called on USC to expand the field, ostensibly because they understood what was at stake. That said, it is worth noting that none of the invited candidates had the courage to stand in solidarity with people of color and bow out of participating in the debate. But we'll leave that alone for now. Canceling the debate was not a victory, it was damage control. The real lesson is that diversity cannot be an afterthought in the criteria. It has to be baked into the thinking from the very beginning. Voters of color are not a special interest. We are the electorate. With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicordoli Corte. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
We close today's program with the visionary computer scientist, futurist, father of virtual reality, Jaron Lanier, who we invited back on this program to get his take on the road ahead for social media following this Meta YouTube verdict. In case you've just tuned in, we were in dialogue for the last half hour with Dr. Anna Lembke, Stanford professor, psychiatrist, who testified at this trial about the damage that can be done to young people. She wrote that book, Dopamine Nation, Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence. So we just talked indulgence, that is. So we just had her on talking about the damage that can be done to young people when they spend too much time on these screens, and particularly her testimony about the fact that these social media platforms are in fact designed to be addictive. And so we thank her for her time on this program. Now we pivot to our friend and brother, Jaron Lanier. In case, again, you've just tuned in, let me give you the quick backstory on what happened a couple of days ago, and then we'll let Jaron respond to how he thinks this is going to impact, again, social media as we know it in the days, months, and years to come. Meta and YouTube were found liable, once again, for deliberately designing addictive products that hooked a young user and led to her being harmed. Jurors found the tech companies to be both negligent and having failed to provide adequate warnings about the potential dangers of their products. They awarded this young user damages of $6 million, Meta paying 70%, YouTube paying the remainder. This was, of course, the very first time, better believe it won't be the last, but the first time a case like this went to trial. With that as the backstory, I welcome Jaron Lanier back to this program. Jaron, how are you, sir?
Hey, I am doing great. Really nice to be here. Nice to talk to you.
It's good to hear your voice again. Let me just jump right in and make the most of the time that we have here. I'll start with a couple of big questions, and we can narrow it as we need to. Just your thoughts overall on the verdict in this case, for starters.
Well, listen, first of all, it's inevitable that this sort of thing is going to start happening. And the reason why is that it's happening. I mean, it's undeniable that this is a thing going on with a lot of young people. I see it all the time when I talk to high school kids. And, so nobody can be surprised. As for what happens next, that's not entirely clear because, what's happened is our society have made expanding this style of tech, which is kind of AI that pretends to be people, we've made that our number one economic priority. It's the thing that we're doing beyond everything else. It's the thing that is our existence now, and it's it's very weird. It's very weird that that's what we're doing. I mean, I think that computers and AI can do a lot of great stuff, but faking being people, like, why? What does it do for us? But that's what we've decided, and it has consequences, and here they are.
Yep. Tell me more. I'm fascinated, as always, by our conversation. Tell me more about why you think we made that decision. Why we made that decision, Jaron Lanier?
Oh man, I spend hours every day thinking about that because I know most of the people involved, at least a little. I'm part of the community. And so I keep on asking them, I keep on asking us, and I'm not saying anything to you. I don't say to everybody else right to their face, which is why? Why are we doing this? And it just, because on the one hand, it seems to do damage. On the other hand, it doesn't do any good. Like, there's not any purpose. We're not curing cancer. We're not solving the global warming crisis. We're not, housing people who need housing. We're not feeding people who need to be fed. What are we doing? Why are we doing these fake people? And so I have a couple of explanations for you.
Sure.
One is, people think about the world in the terms of the stories they grow up on, right? And so in older generations, maybe we grew up on Bible stories or folk tales or some television shows or maybe stories and songs. But for these kids, for techie young men, they grew up on science fiction movies. And all the science fiction movies of their youth were about this and were sort of horrible, like the Terminator or the Matrix movies. Or another one is Her. Like Sam Altman, I haven't kept up with him lately, but we've been friends, and he runs OpenAI. And when they introduced their first sort of fake person like this, he just tweeted out this one word tweet, Her, and they chose a voice that sounded like Scarlett Johansson to recall the movie, apparently. Or so some claim. And it's just bizarre because that's a dystopian movie. Everybody was miserable in that movie. But why? So why would we try to reenact a miserable movie? Why would we try to reenact the AI company runners say, oh, we might kill everybody? Why would they do that? Why? And the reason why is it's the only story they know. Like, deep down, the stories of your childhood are the ones you know. And even if on some higher level intellectually you think they're stupid, they're still the only vocabulary of action you have in your head. So the only story of childhood, if your only story is the Terminator or the Matrix or Her, then that's ultimately what feels right to you to do. I mean, I think that's a lot of the problem.
Yep, no, I hear you. That makes sense to me. The jury is no longer out on what happens to Meta and YouTube. They were found liable, again, of deliberately designing addictive products to hook this young user, led to her being harmed, ordered to pay $6 million between the two of them. So the jury's not out on that. You heard Jaron Lanier say earlier, the jury, to his mind, though, is still out on what happens next. What is the road ahead for social media? So you don't know what's going to happen, as you said earlier, but I do want to ask you, given who you are, what you think ought to happen. That's a different question, Jaron. What ought to happen next following this particular verdict?
Yeah, well, look, I can tell you what I think should happen.
Sure.
Doesn't mean anybody's going to listen to me.
I'm listening.
I mean, I'm still in. I kind of have a seat at the table. I'm still in the community, but it's far from the dominant seat at the table. Let me tell you that. But anyway, okay. Here's what I think should happen. The first thing is, originally, the whole idea of science was the quest for truth, to get away from human biases, human perceptions, human prejudices, and just try to get at what's true when you can. And it's not easy. And then the original goal of technology was to serve people, to do something that's good for people, that accomplishes something. I think we need to get back to those two ideas. Right now, because we've made this idea of faking out people and saying, oh, hey, there's a girlfriend here, even though there isn't, or maybe there's a God here, even though it's really just a product I'm selling you. Instead of getting AI to fake people out and fool them, we should get back to the original goal of science, which is to get at the truth. We should treat fooling people as anti-science. We should treat fooling people as something evil, even, I would say. We should treat fooling people as a bad, lazy, embarrassing humiliation for us as a field. Simple. We shouldn't be fooling people. It's a bad thing to do. So stop making fake girlfriends. Stop making fake gods. Stop making fake videos. Stop making fake everything. Let's stop faking. All right. That's really bad. And then the other thing is, like, the whole point of technology is to help people. If you treat technology as the beneficiary, if you treat the product as the customer, it's like, well, we're making AI better. Well, for who? For what? If you are curing cancer, if you're making it cheaper to grow food people need, if you're doing these things that matter, where you can tell a story about why what you're doing matters, that's what you should be doing. That's the reason you're there. Yeah. If your whole point is just, well, I think it's impressive, you're not doing anything. Yeah. I don't care if it's impressive. That doesn't help anybody. Like, lots of things are impressive. Who cares? Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting upset because this stuff really gets to me.
No, nothing wrong with that. Let me tell you, I want to go when we come forward. Let me just tee this up now. I'm going to just follow Jaron Lanier, as I always do when he comes on this program. He mentions that the goal of science is a quest for truth. About that, he's right. Technology, high tech started out with an interest to serve people. Somewhere the train jumped the tracks. We're no longer in a quest for truth. It's no longer about serving people, and I want to know when, where, and how we jump the track, how the train jumped the tracks. My guess is that money is going to be part of the response. Whatever Jaron Lanier tells me, my guess is that money is going to be a part of how we got away from the quest for truth and technology being about serving people. But I'm anxious to hear his response to that question when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Hey guys, do you want male performance in the bedroom and do you want it now? Get it in 47 seconds or less. For the first time, you can have instant male enhancement. Introducing Nox 47, the topical male enhancement that works in 47 seconds or less. Satisfaction guaranteed. Finally, after years of scientific research, our proprietary formula will allow you to perform in the bedroom like never before. Just imagine that little blue pill on steroids. No reason to settle and wait when you can get instant performance now. Forget about pills and potions that make you wait hours or up to 30 days to work. That's yesterday's news. Nox 47 is brand new. The hottest thing for men. And you don't need a prescription. Call now and get your free supply for a limited time.
To find out how to get Nox 47 for free, call now. 800-677-1453. That's 800-677-1453. Free bottles for limited time. Call 800-677-1453. That's 800-677-1453.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it. Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. Fight the power.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for and there they go. Almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the
right seat. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Jaron Lanier. Jaron Lanier is right that at its best, science is about a quest for truth. At its best, high tech is about serving people. We want to talk about which people and who gets replaced in the process. but my question is, when, where, and how do we jump the tracks from being engaged in a quest for truth and serving people? How'd that happen, Jaron Lanier?
Man, it's been like watching a slow motion horror movie in Silicon Valley. You know, it's really weird. Like, it started off idealistic and something just went wrong. And, you know, you're saying, like, is it about money? The answer is maybe it's a bit more about power and ego than money specifically. And the reason why, like, okay, the OpenAI, the prospectus, the document that they gave to investors said, AI might make money obsolete. So when you invest in this, you have to realize that you might never see your money because there might not be any money afterwards anyway. Okay, now what does that mean? And I think it means that money was always sort of an indirect thing. Like if you had money, then you could use it to get things. But if you have a more direct way of getting things, like just by directly manipulating people because they've fallen in love with an AI that you own and control or something like that, like, why do you need the middleman of money? Like, get rid of that. It's more efficient just to have direct. So, I mean, I think there's just like this weird, I don't know. There's like everybody in the world is telling you you're the smartest, most powerful, richest, most deserving person ever of all time. And then on top of that, there's that kind of personality, that sort of endlessly reinforced thing. Kind of is a little like the president that we ended up electing here in the country, and somehow that whole thing mushed together into this new version of Silicon Valley that's like, whatever it is, it's about me, and whatever I do, that must be right. It's just like this very almost infantile degradation of where we started. And you know, like you watch it happen, and I think all you can say is, wow, you know, people are really vulnerable to becoming idiotic sometimes, you know? I mean, that's like just all I can think of to say sometimes. It's like this spectacle.
Yeah. Spectacle is the right word, I think. I've been thinking about, and I haven't had a chance to read this yet. I assume, I could be wrong, my assumption is that Meta and YouTube are going to appeal this decision. I don't know.
Oh, they've already said they will.
Yeah, I figured they would. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see that part of the story, but I'm not surprised that they are. So I raised that issue about the appeal. When we come forward, I want to ask Jaron his thoughts on this in our final moments together. They're going to appeal this, and ultimately it appeals its way up to the Supreme Court. And this is the kind of case that the Supreme Court will likely choose. I say to this audience all the time, Jaron, reminding them that the Supreme Court chooses the cases it wants to hear. It chooses the cases it wants to hear. So they're going to appeal. Eventually, this will find its way, I suspect, to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court will hear it. And if you follow their track record, SCOTUS always seems to come to the rescue, to the defense of big business. There have been books written about this, and I've had conversations about it on this program over many programs in my career, the way in which the Supreme Court always seems to side with big business. So it's a victory today, but maybe not tomorrow. We'll talk about that when we come forward in our remaining moments with Jaron Lanier on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The midterm elections are upon us. It is voting season once again. Common Cause's motto is fighting for the democracy we deserve. In service of that goal, Common Cause puts its state and national policy expertise massive network of grassroots supporters and nonpartisan approach into action to strengthen our democracy against the challenges we face today. They work at every level of government on priorities that impact each of our lives, like defending the right to vote, limiting big money's influence on our elections, holding public officials accountable, and more. Common Cause is a nonpartisan grassroots organization dedicated to upholding the core values of American democracy. They seek to empower all people to make their voices heard in the political process. This election may be the most important one ever. If you'd like to make a donation or volunteer in service to the Constitution, please visit commoncause.org. That's commoncause.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this: skills first hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
Jaron Lanier is our guest for the next 3 or 4 minutes here, and we wrap this program at the top of the hour. So, Jaron, a victory today, and who knows what happens tomorrow. As I said earlier, the Supreme Court always seems to rescue big business in this country. So the appeal process is underway. We shall see. Care to make a wager on how this ultimately ends?
I'm not a wagering man, but I will say something, which is I want to talk about a ray of hope here.
Sure.
Which is that Christians got Trump elected. Let's be very clear about that. If the evangelicals and Catholics and other Christians had not voted for Trump, he would not be there. Some of us might not like that they did vote for him, but at any rate, they did. And the thing is, a lot of them are not happy with the way the tech bros seem to take over the revolution that they voted in, you know? And so there's a very interesting moment here where there's a new opportunity for a dialogue across the left-right or the red-blue divide, where we can say, look, we might disagree about some things, but can we all just agree that we care more about people than weird tech manias?
Yeah.
You know, can we at least agree on that? And that might be a path to national reconciliation, and it might provide a countervailing pressure that balances pure corporate, interests in this case. And I think we should all be thinking about that with everyone we know.
That's a powerful point. Powerful point. Here's my exit question. Given that Meta and YouTube, at the moment at least, the appeal process again is underway, but they've been found liable for deliberately, that's the key word, deliberately designing addictive products that hook users in this particular trial, this particular case, young users. But you heard Dr. Anna Lembke say earlier, the same thing is true for adults. So it's not just kids. My exit question is, given the revelations in this particular trial, Jaron Lanier, what is your advice for social media users in real time?
Oh, look, I wrote a book called 10 Arguments to Get Off Your Social Media Accounts. Now, I called it that because I can give you the arguments, but I don't know your life. Like, if you have a life where you're getting more out of being on them than it's costing you, I'm not going to tell you what to do. And number one, you have to make your own life successful. Like, I think that's really important. And I'm not going to be the person to tell you what to do or how to do it. But, because these things are addictive and because they're sneaky, you can be fooled. You can think you're doing something that's for your own good, where really you're only like on this hamster wheel. You're just like running and running and running, more for the benefit of the company that runs the platform than for yourself. It's very hard to get clear on all that stuff. I got to tell you, don't feel bad if you find it confusing. Don't feel bad if you find it difficult to do the thing that maybe you think you ought to do. But I'm telling you, like, I remember, do you remember Black Twitter? Everybody saying, oh, it's going to be so great. And I was like, are you kidding? You know, like a lot of the activists on it are actually fake Russian bots, and the whole thing can just be bought and turned around on a dime. And then all of a sudden, where are you? All that stuff happened. Like, it's not easy, but the easy thing to do is just to succumb, and I don't think that's what you really want.
Nope.
You know. Nope. So there you are. You know, that's my advice.
He's written a bunch of books. I've had him on my program, TV and radio, thankfully and gratefully as these texts have come out. He mentioned one a moment ago that I highly recommend. It's on the shelf in my library right now. 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media Accounts Right Now. He also has a book called You Are Not a Gadget. He's just a brilliant thinker, and I'm always honored to tap into his brain, particularly in moments like these where we see the culture moving at warp speed. And I'm always trying to get out of Jaron what does this actually mean, and delighted that he had some time to talk to us today. Jaron, enjoy the rest of your day, man. Thank you for your time.
Hey, you too. Thanks. It's an honor to be talking to you.
Be well.
Always.
I appreciate you, man. Stay strong. Just like that, 3 hours gone. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until tomorrow, thanks for listening to Tavis Smiley, and as always, keep the faith.